All right, we are recording. I need this back up. So I actually already covered this script yesterday. That's also part of the reason why this is a separate video. Um, I realized I forgot to talk about the kinds of things you want to have in the scenes that you are cutting out. At least I'm pretty sure I forgot. If I didn't forget, then it's just worth its own video to talk about. So what I try to do when I am cutting out these scenes is I try to get two things, two types of scenes, but also one quality, one aspect in one of the scenes. It doesn't matter which one. Okay, so what are the two types of scenes first? Something calm, like two people talking. It can be like that, where the camera's going back and forth between them, or it can be you're just at a table talking, or something like that. Doesn't matter what it is, just something that's very calm, it's very stable. This should give you an idea of the low end of bitrate, because that should be something easily encoded. Camera doesn't necessarily have to be still, just watching, or just bouncing back and forth. It doesn't necessarily have to be like that. It can be a smooth, even, relatively slow motion. That's fine, because that's something that how modern video encoding works. It likes that. It can work with that very nicely, so you don't need to worry about that. Okay, so like that, something like that. So it's just easy, it's smooth. That's good to have. Because as I said, that can give you a sense of the low end for bit. Well, maybe not necessarily low end for bitrate, but this is the stuff the encoder will like. So potentially that means low bitrate, but can also be high quality, because like will sit there, and the encoder will be able to rest on these things and make sure, okay, I'm going to throw a lot of bits. I'm making sure that the thing that one ornament, whatever it is, like if it's ribbons on a soldier's chest, whether it's a pin, whatever, I can make sure that there's plenty of bits there to see, because everything is calm. I can build things up over time because of it being interframe encoding, interframe compression, so everything's temporal. Time allows you to build stuff up. It's like, okay, that might end up making it a higher bitrate, but still say, okay, this is best case scenario for the encoder. We want to see that. We want that scene. The other type is something that would be at least approaching a worst case scenario. So that can be any action scene that involves a lot of things happening. You'd actually be surprised how many action scenes technically are at the first. What I was talking about, where it's calm, but something where there's like a lot of explosions going off, rain, snow, dust, things like that. Something that there's just a lot of chaos on the screen, where there's not many patterns to enjoy. That can also be camera making very fast movements. Okay, you want stuff like that in there, because this is, in theory, approaching a worst case scenario. Another thing that's actually really good for this, it might not be an action scene, would be like somebody falling into the water and thrashing about. Because water, it likes being noisy. It likes being kind of chaotic. It likes being something that encoding that compression algorithms don't really like working with. So that is also good to use. Bubbles as well. So if you have an image, a scene where it's like under the water and you're seeing bubbles coming up, that, especially if it's a lot of bubbles, that is very good to test. Very good for a scene, because that will be pushing the encoder to very high bit rates, or at least it wants to. Maybe you got a bitrate limit, so that's not happening. But in any case, still say that's going to be hard to encode. So try to have that extreme along with the relatively calm extreme. So if you can get those two figured out, so this looks good and this looks good, and the bit rates you're happy with, then that means everything in the middle should be good. Now there might still be a worse scene than this, a more extreme scene somewhere in the movie or in the television show. That's fine. If this is good, though, the whole idea is this is good, and it's going to be representative, that even if you have something a little bit worse, well, it should be able to handle it. Should be able to handle it. Alright, so that's the different kinds of scenes. What's that quality that I mentioned? That one thing that it's good to try to include. And it can be in either of the scenes. It might be harder to get in either scene type. It might be harder to get in an action scene, but this may sound weird. But anything that is going to be like a flat, consistent color that has film grain on it. That can be a wall, a ceiling, or the sky. It's probably going to be the sky in most movies. Okay. Why that? It's because of how lossy compression works, especially AV1. I always have to watch out for this when working with AV1, because it likes to take the scene like this behind me. And it likes trying to divide up into blocks, and then it'll take one of those blocks and be like, there's not much difference there. I'm going to crush it down to one color. It's like, okay, that's a fair way to try to compress. It's lossy compression. It's just throwing out a lot of the detail because it'll compress better. I understand that in some cases. That works fine. Yeah, go ahead and do that. Oh, wait, no, this block right next to it, though, you're not doing it to. So now you've got this single color block next to a well-detailed block. Not necessarily highly detailed, but well-detailed. A patchwork of that looks like shit. So make sure you have a scene that includes something like that. So that way you can see that, oh, yeah, I need to adjust things because I don't want that happening. I don't want it to look like that. It looks horrible. So, yes, try to include something like that. As I said, it can be the sky. The larger the area, the better, because that's going to be easier for you to see. But I can even see it in when it's just like a sliver. So it'd be in just like a little bit. My hand doesn't reach all the way up. But even if it's just in like a little bit that's just peeking out behind mountains, still do that. A wall, as well, as I said, that can work. I've seen that multiple movies when I've been trying to process it, and it's like, there's a wall there, and there's film grain on it. See, that is also key to it, is that there has to be something that is noisy there, there's disrupting it, so it's not just one color. And then it will be like, oh, I want to try to crush that down here, but not up here, and patchwork looks horrible, so make sure you include that. And yeah, this is, I mainly work with AV1 and 265. It seems far more an AV1 issue than 265. 265 can definitely still do this, okay? But sometimes it handles it better than AV1 does. And it is. I haven't gotten to making the video yet. Hopefully I will later today. For me, all these I think will be coming out at the same time. I'm not sure. I'll decide on that later. I don't even know when I'm going to put them out. Sorry. Obviously, if you've seen this, they're out. There's a lot of ways you can tune in AV1, though, to avoid that issue, while still keeping things at a reasonable bitrate. Obviously, if you're not having them all crushed down, all the blocks crushed down, it takes more data than to represent the blocks, but still, there are ways to keep that from getting out of control. And that will be in a different video, much later in the playlist than this one, because there's some things to cover first. Alright, where's the mouse? There it is. Okay. See you next time.